I wanted to go over this with you because I have been setting up your grade components and your class schedules for you, but because we are expanding and there's just so many of you guys now that it's really hard for me to keep up with setting up all the classes for you in Jeji in terms of the schedule, the grade components and stuff like that. So I figured it's probably time to teach the man how to fish, so to speak. Okay, so instead of me doing it for you, I'm going to teach you how to do it so that you can do it yourselves. Okay, so as long as you have access to your group and to your class, you should be able to do what I'm going to show you how to do. Okay, and I am recording this in service. So if you ever need to revisit it, I'm just going to make this video recording available to you, and you can revisit it later. So I'm just going to pull up any course. Okay, so hold on there. My internet is a little bit slow. Okay, so let's just pull up this group. And once again, as long as you have access to the group and to the course, you should be able to set this up yourself. And if you don't have access to the group and the course, you let me know and I'll make sure, okay? All right. Okay, so let's just pick any one of these courses. Okay. All right, I am going to, let's see, let's do this one. Okay, so you know that when you track somebody's attendance, you just go and click on the actions button and click on attendance. But if there are no classes set up, it's not going to give you anything, okay? So it's probably going to ask you to set up the classes first. So what you do is instead of attendance, you click on class schedule in order to set up all the dates when your classes are. So you go to class schedule. All right, and at this point there are no classes. So what you're going to do is you're going to schedule your own classes. So this part is important here. Now you have to see your total required hours in the course has to be the same as your total scheduled hours. Okay, so let's say your class is a 3-hour class, or let's say it's 4-hour class. So you make sure the duration is going to be 4 hours. And because this is an online class and all our deadlines for each lecture are due by midnight, we want to make sure that the time that the class is set up to happen is this amount of hours before the midnight. So if the duration is 4 hours, we need to set it up for 8 p.m. okay, for every class. Okay. All right. So yes, so Chris is saying that you determine the number of hours based on the number of course units. That is correct. So if your class is a 4-unit class, then each lecture is equivalent to 4 hours. If your class is a 3-unit class, then each lecture is 3 hours. And for 2 units, it's 2 hours each, okay? So does that make sense? Thank you for the input, Chris. Okay, so you start with the first date. So the date of your first lecture should be the same one as on your course schedule in Moodle. So whenever we set your class up, I'm going to pull up any class right now. Okay, I'm just going to pull up, let's say, let's just pull up one of these. And just for the heck of it, critical thinking. Okay, so for the critical thinking, and for every class, we put your schedule up here right under the syllabus. We always put it in the same place so that you can find it easily and your students can find it easily. So we're going to make the Jeji class schedule based on this class schedule. Okay, so when do we schedule the first lecture? The first lecture is scheduled on the day when the first lecture is due. So our course, in this case, is critical thinking, for example. The critical thinking first lecture is due right here on Tuesday, September 27th. So that's when we schedule the first class. Okay, so we choose Tuesday, September 27th. And let's say your course goes once a week, always at the same time, it's always Tuesdays, then you could just do repeats weekly, okay? Or in this case, this course goes more than once a week. So this goes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So instead of weekly, we're going to choose daily, and it's going to ask us to choose which days of the week. So this particular course goes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Okay, and it's going to ask us when do we want it to end, or how many lectures should we do, because we have certain days when we have, let's say, a midterm, and we don't count that day toward the hours, for example. Then I would say, instead of count, just choose to end on. And when does it end on? You go back to your schedule, which was a pop-up somewhere here. There it is. And it will end right here. So let's say it will end November 15th, for example. Okay, or you can see when is the last day that your students are getting this certain number of hours for it, because every class here, you see, it comes with the number of hours. Okay, so let's say it ends on, and we choose November 8th, for example. Okay, and then once we do that, we add, click on add. Okay, and once you add, it's going to show you how many hours you have scheduled already, total scheduled hours, and how many are required. So your total scheduled hours will usually end up being greater than required, because then you'll have to remove or delete certain hours here, certain days when, let's say, you're giving a midterm, or you're doing a pre-midterm review or pre-final review. That would be relevant for courses such as biology, algebra, anatomy, physiology. So those that are on the modules, not semesters. Okay, if you were doing semesters, most likely you would be doing weekly repeats, and you would just do repeat 14 times, because there's a total of 15. So the one that you scheduled plus 14 repeats, that's 15 sessions total. That would be for the semesters. Okay, and then for those of you who are doing things like algebra, anatomy, physiology, biology, sociology, critical thinking, the days when you are doing a midterm, if it doesn't count toward the hours, you just find that date and you delete that date. And it's going to ask you, do you want to delete it? And then you say yes. Okay, and then you're going to have to make sure that the number of sessions here is the same as the number of sessions in your course, and that your total scheduled hours is the same as the required hours in the course. Does that make sense? This is a good time for you to ask questions. Okay. Nobody? Okay. Now, sometimes you would teach more than one section of the same class. For example, right now, Jesse is teaching 3 sections of the sociology class, right? And they're on the same schedule. So he has 2 groups in San Mateo, ASUT and ASMRI, and 1 group in Fresno, ASUT. And they're all on the same schedule. So it doesn't make sense for him to go through this 3 times. He can go through this 1 time and go to the other 2 groups, and instead of doing this, he could just go import from another course. And it's just going to ask you, where do you want to import it from? So you would choose the group that's already set up. So you're going to pick the group that's already set up, and then you're going to choose the course. that you want to copy the dates. So of course it's going to be sociology course for the sociology course, critical thinking course for the critical thinking course, and so on. Because they're on the same schedule, they have the same dates, the same hours, the same everything. Okay, so if you're teaching more than one group that's on the same schedule, it just makes it easier for you to just import the schedule instead of setting it up again. Okay, any questions so far? Nothing? You can just unmute your microphone and yell. It's fine. You don't have to type. You could just talk. All right. So that's how you set up your... go ahead. Yes.
When we copy the courses over, does it make a difference if it's like an older version of the course or a newer course? I mean, is there a preference as far as the newness that we want to copy from? I mean...
Okay, so think about this. The older course is going to have different dates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Okay. For different semesters, right? When I had copied over from an old course when I was doing mine. Remember, I had set something up recently.
Yeah, but you're probably thinking about, you're thinking grade components, not the class schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Right.
So grade components, yes, you can import from previous versions of the class. If they are exactly the same, you can just import grade components from previous ones. But if you're running 2 or 3 groups, the same course on the same schedule at the same time, let's say they're all Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and there's 3 of them, then it doesn't make sense to set them up 3 times. Okay?
Okay. So dates is specific. It won't shift over like Moodle does.
No. No. Yeah, you have to set up the dates at least once.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Anybody? Nope. Okay. So are we all good on how to set up your class schedule? So once you've set up your class schedule, you can go back to the attendance. And it's, of course, going to ask you to set up the grade. So whenever you have set up, we have a new group, like brand new group, brand new course, you have to configure the grades. And our grades, the grade settings are always going to be the same. So you're going to click on Configure Now, and it's going to take you to another page, and you have to set up that 89, up to 89 is a B, up to 79 is a C, up to 74 is a D, and up to 64 is an F. So basically F is 0 to 64, then 65 to 74 is a D, 75 to 79 is a C, 80 to 89 is a B, and 90 to 100 is an A. Okay, and then you save it, and that's done.
Jelena?
Yes.
I just wanted to point out, if you have trouble remembering those percentages, it's on the syllabus.
Yes, correct. Thank you. But they're always the same. We have them the same for all the courses. Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you for pointing that out. Great. Mm-hmm. All right. Now another thing, so are we all clear on how to set up your class schedule in Jeji? As long as you have access to your group, you should be able to do it without a problem. All right. Now another thing that you want to be able to set up is your grade components, and most of your grade components have already been set up for you. So if this is a new course that you have never done before, you would have to probably set up your grade components from scratch. But if this is a course that you have done before, you can just import the grade components from the course you have done before. So you know how to do that. I think I showed it to you. If there are no, yes, there are no grade components. Sorry, you would have to go into Actions button and click on Grade Components. Okay, so if this is a course that you have done before, you can probably use the old grade components, and you can just import from the other course. So if this is, let's say, ASUT 3, then you could probably copy it from the previous time you taught this course for ASUT 2. So you would just find a group that has from the same campus, ASUT 2, for example, and then you pick the course that you have done before. Okay, like for example, if this is UT 200, you probably want to import it from the same course, UT 200, but from the older group, and then you import and you're good to go. Okay. All right, so there it is. It's pretty straightforward. Okay. Now, if you need to create your own grade components, if this is the first time you're doing this, it's very easy. So what you do is, if this is not an extra credit, if this is a regular component, you go ahead and go to add a component. Okay. Oh, it's in percentages. Let me just pick another course. Okay, I'm gonna pick another course. Hold on.